Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Hard-Boiled English Live. I'm your host, teacher, tutor, language coach, and investigator, Paul Duke. Welcome, everybody, on this spectacular Halloween weekend. As you can probably tell, Halloween is my favorite time of year. And yes, I turn into a little child all over again. So, thank you for indulging me. Allow me a moment to change some lights, and we'll get down to business. Welcome to the show, everyone. Welcome. To start with, guys, please say hello in the comment thread and tell us where you're watching from. We have a good show tonight lined up. I have a little helper here. Okay, enough. Thank you. The format of this show is simple, as everyone knows. You ask me questions and I give you answers. Now, tonight we have a few questions already lined up. And at the half-hour point, I'm going to bring on a very special guest whom I've met recently. And I think you'll learn a lot from this guest. So, say hello in the comment thread, and we'll get going. For those of you who don't know me and think I'm just some lunatic dressed up like this all the time, my name is Paul Duke. I live in Vancouver, Canada, which is where I'm streaming from. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. We're also live on Twitter, Africa TV, Bilibili TV, and FC2. So wherever you are watching us, thank you for joining us tonight. It's always a pleasure to see you in the comment thread and to find out where you're watching from. I really enjoy that. So please say hello and tell me what country you're watching from. For those of you who don't know me, let me introduce myself to you a little bit. I am the host of the YouTube channel, Hard-Boiled English. On that channel, you can see my main series, which I make with my students, called English Weirdness. And yes, there is a special Halloween episode. English Weirdness is a long-form investigation series in which we explore some of the strange side of the English language that often confuses learners. So this series uses dramatization to establish a context. It's got animated graphics to explain the language at work. And it's got some happy endings, as it were. Okay. I also host a weekly conversation cafe. So if you need a chance to practice your English, perhaps you live in a country where English isn't spoken and practicing your... Whoa! Settle down there. Okay. Too much excitement. Yes, you can join my Conversation Cafe Friday mornings at 7 a.m. Vancouver time, which is PDT or PST. Now, this event is free, but you do need to register in advance. So find me on Facebook at Hardboiled English and register there for the Conversation Cafe. I'm also available for private lessons if you need some extra help with your schoolwork, your English learning, your writing. Whatever you need help with, contact me and we can arrange some private lessons. Premiering tonight, it's my great honor to announce a whole new project. And this project is a podcast that I'm in development with two amazing colleagues of mine, Anna Steyr, who you may have met on this show before, and John McGraw, a newer colleague. And the theme of this podcast is all related to English education in Canada and Japan. The three of us share common links to Japan, the country, and its people. So we decided to make a podcast examining the state of the education business here and there. So check that out. It's on Spotify and YouTube, but you can also get the links from our Facebook profiles. So let's say hello to whomever's with us tonight. So far we have, wow, sorry, I'm a little behind schedule. We have Chris from Belgium. Hello, Chris. We have Wako from Japan. We have Franco The Tutor, who is my guest this evening. We have Carmen. Welcome to the show, Carmen. We met this morning for the first time at the Conversation Cafe. It was really nice to meet you. We have Parveen from Melbourne. We have Sandra Patricia Primero Ceballos or Ceballos. I'm not sure where you are from, Sandra, but welcome to the show. We have Facebook user teacher from Bangladesh. I don't know your name, and all I can see is Facebook user. One thing, guys, if you watch this show from a Facebook group, I cannot see your comment ID. So it's better to watch it from my Facebook profile or Teacher Paul Facebook page. Better yet is YouTube, because YouTube actually has the better picture quality. Luza Ang is with us from Colombia. Nice spooky evening, good. We have Juan Carlos Alarcon from, I'm not sure, maybe Juan Carlos, where are you from? Please tell us what country you're watching in, but welcome anyway. Who else did I miss? Stacy, we have Stacy Ann Reed watching from Jamaica. Welcome, welcome, Stacy Ann. Sandra is from Colombia, welcome. And we have Parveen from Melbourne, Australia. We have Hector Sanka. Hello, Hector. We have Chris from Brazil. Okay, great. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. For those of you who've missed my spooky entrance, this is my costume for this evening. However, it's a little bit awkward to speak in, so I'm going to keep it off until we bring our guest on, and I'll scare him all over again. He won't expect it, I'm sure. You're quiet? Okay. And my magic lamp is quiet. Also, hello to Angela. Angela's joining us from Peru. Welcome. And we have a Facebook user from Bangladesh. Great. Okay, guys. To start the show every week, what I'd like to do is introduce a new vocabulary word. And usually this word is a positive adjective that you can use instead of the word good, because most language learners overuse the word good. There are lots of adjectives that describe something positive. Well, tonight we have a very special word. And this word is normally a negative connotation, a negative meaning adjective. But because this is the Halloween weekend in Canada and the US, very fun holiday, scary things become good things. It's a weekend where we face our fears and look at our demons. We watch horror movies. We dress like spooky goblins and ghosts. So tonight's word of the day is words to use instead of good. Tonight's word is spooky. Okay, so as I said, usually spooky describes something negative. But on Halloween weekend, all those scary things become positive. So what does it mean? Spooky is an adjective that means something strange and frightening, resembling or suggesting spooks. And spooks is another word for ghost. So, if on a normal day you saw a ghost walking down the street, and a normal work day, if you saw a ghost, that would be kind of spooky. It'd be kind of scary, maybe negative. But on Halloween, if you see a ghost, that's pretty cool. So, on this special day, meanings of words transform. Spooky is a positive. Today, or Halloween weekend. Here's my example. Paul is wearing a spooky mask. Okay? Here's my spooky mask. Right? On a normal day, if you walked down the street and saw me wearing this, it might be kind of, well, legitimately scary. But on Halloween, sorry guys, my sound effects lamp, actually my lamp makes the sound effects. I don't know why, it won't behave. Okay, so as I said, today is a spooky mask. It's a good thing, it's Halloween. So this is now a positive meaning. Paul is wearing a spooky mask. Or we might say, Paul looks, or is, we can use a connecting verb, spooky. And this, of course, is the structure that describes the subject. Here, spooky describes the noun mask. Okay? And so something that resembles or... So we have two levels of the meaning here, right? We have strange and frightening. Anything that is strange and frightening. Like a movie was spooky. The other meaning is really the original meaning, which is resembling or suggesting spooks or ghosts. So you could say, I watched a spooky movie, right? Or Paul is wearing a spooky mask. He is dressed in a spooky costume. Okay, what I'd like you to do now, guys, is I want you to try making a sentence using this adjective. So in the comment thread, please type in your sentence using the adjective spooky. In the meantime, I'll say hello to... Oh, we have Facebook users joining us, but I do not see your name. So please tell us your name and what country you're from. We do have Rakib joining us from Bangladesh. Welcome, Rakib. Okay. Okay, Carmen's got an example for us. Carmen says, your place is really spooky. Good, good. We have Chris Derboven from Belgium. She says, my spooky black cat, Moleke, makes me happy. Good. Hopefully I said the cat's name correctly, Chris. You can tell me later. We have Wako. Wako says the decoration in the live show is spooky. Yeah, the decoration is spooky. We have Liping Yan from Mexico. Sorry I was late. Okay, no problem, Liping. You can join us anytime. And by the way, let's get Franco the link to stand by. Franco the Tutor is our guest, so let's get him the link. Oh, okay. Anyone else have an example for us? While I wait for your examples, I'll get into character. In case anyone joins me now and thinks this is my normal face and doesn't realize this is my normal face. We have Wilson joining us. Happy Halloween, Wilson. And we have an example from Maria Cristina. Chris, wearing a spooky mask is part of Halloween traditions. Yes, indeed. Luza says, it's going to be a very spooky night for us to enjoy this evening with Paul. Very nice. Sandra says, your necklace is spooky. Yeah, it's got this sort of meat hook with blood on it. Very spooky. What else do we have? We have Wilson says, I saw a spooky, scary snake on the ground. This is great because Wilson is using a technique called alliteration. If you look at the phrase of 3 words here, 3 of his words start with the same sound. S. Spooky, scary, snake. So that sound is repeated. That's a very interesting technique in English, other languages too, called alliteration, where you repeat a sound and those 3 words combine to express some kind of meaning. Juan Carlos is saying, I've spent a spooky night when I went to visit my death relatives in the cemetery. Yeah, that would be spooky. Parveen says, my son scared me with his spooky mask on. Very nice. Roni's here. Roni from Bangladesh says, a spooky man is coming to me. Very good. See, guys, normally, if you were walking down the street and a spooky man was coming to you, it would be a bad meaning. It might be dangerous. But on Halloween, this word becomes a little positive. It becomes fun. So words change their connotation. Connotation means the emotional meaning of a word. This is what we call the denotation, the dictionary meaning. Okay? That's denotation. D for dictionary, denotation. That's the actual meaning of a word. But connotation changes. Connotation is the emotional meaning. And sometimes it changes through a language history. Sometimes it changes as culture changes. For example, there's a word I use often, which is cool. It's positive. Something is cool. Well, 50 years ago, cool didn't mean something positive. It had a negative connotation. But culture changed. So when we're learning words, we have to think about these 2 levels of meaning. Denotation, according to the dictionary, and connotation. How we're using them in a culture at a certain time in history. with an emotional meaning. What is their connection? Facebook user is saying, good morning, teacher. I don't know your name. So if you're watching on a Facebook group, I cannot see your name. Only if you watch on the Facebook profile or the Facebook Teacher Paul page or YouTube. So if you want me to see your name, if you're on a Facebook group watching this, please tell me your name and the country you're watching from. Oh, by the way, we're also on LinkedIn, which is exciting. Okay. Okay, that's our word of the day, so let's get rid of that. Are you okay? Okay. Now I'm going to get to a couple of questions that we have left over and that were sent to me. I remember a couple of weeks back, I think it was Chris asked a question and we ran out of time so I couldn't address it. Or maybe it was Wilson. So I'm going to say goodbye to the ghost. The ghost is going to take a little nap, a little time out. And I'm going to address this question that we had. Good question. All of your questions are always good, so I really look forward to them. Okay, so the first one is, what is the difference does an upward or downward inflection make? See that one? Yeah. Okay. Oops. So I think this was asked by Chris on the show a couple of weeks ago. And she observed that sometimes when English speakers change their sentence intonation, they lift it up. And she's wondering what's the difference, or what does the downward inflection make? So this does alter the meaning. If we have a downward inflection, which is really what this sentence is doing, we start with the subject and we go down here to the period. So we really should say this with a downward inflection, because that expresses that it's a statement. Paul is wearing a mask. Paul is wearing a mask. Okay? That's downward inflection. But if we lift it, Paul is wearing a mask. Even maybe add a facial gesture. Paul is wearing a mask. It kind of becomes a question. Right? Maybe someone says, hey, you know what? Paul is wearing a mask. And you're surprised. So you might say, Paul is wearing a mask? You repeat their statement, your friend's statement, you repeat it, but with upward inflection, turn it into a question because it surprises you. Now, you probably know your grammar, and you probably know that's not how we write a question in English. We invert the subject and the verb, right? To make a question, we would say, is Paul wearing a mask? That is proper question grammar in English, right? Verb, subject. And here we have subject, verb. We invert with the be verb. Be verb is special. Any other verb, we have to use the do auxiliary word, right? Does Paul wear a mask? But here we have a be verb, so it's a simple inversion. This is a question. Is Paul wearing a mask? And in fact, because it has question grammar, starting with the verb, is Paul wearing a mask? We actually don't even need the upward inflection anymore because the grammar tells us it's a question. Is Paul wearing a mask? So that's more like, is Paul wearing a mask? It lifts at the end. Is Paul wearing a mask? Paul is wearing a mask. So this is the difference. You can do this with a statement, usually when you're repeating the statement your friend made, to clarify or to express surprise. Hey, Paul is wearing a mask. Paul is wearing a mask? Really? Okay. But if you're just asking a question, use question grammar. Is Paul wearing a mask? And then you don't really need a lot of upward inflection. The grammar does the work. Is Paul wearing a mask? Right? Now, I live on the west coast of Canada. And there's something unusual about the west coast of Canada and the United States. In a city where I live, Vancouver, and in Seattle in the US, and in San Francisco, and in Los Angeles, even down as far south as San Diego, the local, I don't want to say accent, it's not really an accent, but often people use an upward inflection when they say a statement. When I first moved here 25 years ago, I was very surprised at this, because when I made a statement, I used downward inflection. So I was very surprised to see people walking around turning everything into a question. For me, it sounded like everyone was confused. Oh my, the bus is coming? Is that a question? You're confused? No, I see the bus is coming. Or they would say, oh, you're wearing a nice costume. But they would lift. They would say, you're wearing a nice costume? Right? And it's kind of odd, and it might be confusing for you learners out there. So just keep that in mind. On the West Coast, they do tend to lift up, and sometimes it's really ridiculous. Like you might hear teenagers turning everything into a question. Oh my God, your shirt is so nice. Oh my God, those shoes are awesome. That's not a question. They're making a statement, but they have this kind of inflection habit. You don't need to follow that, guys, because it's really not that helpful. It's kind of confusing. Okay? I'm going to take care of another question that was sent to me about the word dwell. Someone asked me last week about the word dwell. Now, usually, guys, when I don't have a guest, we can devote the full hour to answering your questions. But I do like to bring guests on and share the community. So when I have a guest, we have limited time. So I'm not going to have time to answer all your questions. But I do have one here. When can I use the word dwell? Okay, it's a great word. Okay, and it's a verb. Okay, I dwell in Vancouver. Now, it basically means live. And usually it means live in a home, right? To the point where home is often referred to as a dwelling, a place where people dwell. So you might make a sentence like, my dwelling is nice. Nice and, warm. It's cold where I am. So my dwelling is nice and warm. My home is nice and warm. But the verb dwell means to live. So you might not realize it, but this studio I'm in is actually in my home. It's in my dwelling. I actually dwell here. I dwell in this studio. It's really my office. That's how you use the word. It's a verb. It means to live in something. Now, I can say I dwell in Vancouver, but it's a little odd. I would normally say I live in Vancouver, because dwell refers to the action of dwelling in a home, right? Not dwelling in a city or a country. It really refers to where your home is. So I live in the Vancouver area, but really I dwell in my apartment. Okay? And that's how you use the word dwell. Let's see what else we have that I missed. We have a question from Joseph. Yeah, let's pop Joseph's question up. That's a good one. It's going back to the word spooky. And actually, let's bring the word of the day graphic back up. Now, Joseph, you're asking a good question, but I also want to share with you my personal philosophy about words. You're suggesting that they sound synonymous. My personal opinion about English language is that if we have two different words, two synonyms, we have two meanings. Otherwise, through history and the evolution of the language, one of them would go in the garbage and fall out of use. So when teachers say a synonym is two words that mean the same, it's not really accurate. If we have more than one word, the meaning is slightly different. So the meaning of spooky is strange and frightening, or suggesting spooks. Suggesting spooks. Strange and frightening. Okay? Now, strange isn't always bad, right? For example, right now I'm dressed kind of strange, and I'm suggesting spook. I'm kind of dressed like a ghost. Are you afraid of me? I don't think so. If you are, I'm sorry. when you say scary, it really means it's describing something that's causing you fear, legitimate fear. Spooky can also be a little charming, okay? It's resembling spooks, resembling ghosts, but maybe not really a ghost. Scary is a little stronger. Scary would be something that's actually causing you fear, legitimate fear. A scary movie, okay? Like you can watch horror movies that are really scary, terrifying, and you're like this the whole time. But you can watch spooky movies at Halloween that are kind of comedies. Okay, I would describe those as spooky. They resemble ghosts, and there's ghosts in the story, but it's a comedy. No one's really afraid. So spooky is lighter. Spooky is just kind of charming. Okay, Li Ping is also asking about creepy. Creepy is more unnatural. Okay? Creepy involves something a little bit unnatural. Now, it might be a ghost, because ghosts are not part of our normal life. But creepy might relate to things like spiders, right? Spiders are very different than humans, and they give us a strange, unnatural feeling, a very different feeling. So creepy is that feeling we get when we experience something that's really either unnatural, like, I don't know, a turtle talking to you, or a cat talking to you. That's creepy because that's not natural. It's not part of nature. But creepy can also be like really unhuman, inhuman, like a spider. The spider is an animal or an insect that is so different than humans. When we see it, we get a weird feeling. A spider, a snake, those kind of creatures that are very different than humans. Cats, dogs, monkeys, we see a little similarity. They have eyes, they have, they're a little cuter. But there are some creatures that just make us feel really awkward, and that's the creepy feeling. So all of it's related, of course. Like Halloween, you're going to hear all those words: spooky, scary, creepy. Okay, and we can also describe people as creepy when they're behaving kind of badly. We feel they might have bad intentions, right? That's kind of creepy. Got to be careful of creepy people. And then there are scary people, people that really make you afraid because they seem dangerous, right? Spooky people, well, I'm kind of spooky, but I don't think you're afraid of me. I hope not. This is supposed to be silly, right? This is me having fun. So hopefully that answers the question. The differences are always small and subtle, right? But there are differences. That's what I want you to recognize. We have Chieko joining us. Okay, now I think it's time to bring my guest on. Now, he's not expecting me to look like this, so I'm going to scare him. So let's go back to the scary lighting, and I'll bring my guest on. He totally has no idea. So bear with me. And then I'll introduce my esteemed guest. Okay, are you ready, folks? Now, bear with me a moment, because I have to get my... Yeah, those ones. But let me just get the sound sorted out. Okay. Bear with us, folks. Okay, let me scare my guest. Now, I know this guest is a playful, fun-loving person, so he'll just think it's charming and spooky. Or maybe he'll be afraid, I don't know. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest this evening is a fascinating and wonderful teacher from Lima, Peru. Lima, Peru. Now, he's a CELTA certified tutor, he's a TikToker, he's a YouTuber, and he's also the owner of an interesting store. Now, he established this store. Let's see the graphics. And I think it's called the Learning Factory. There's two graphics there. And this store, he sold his own personally made teacher supplies. Now, the pandemic forced him to close the actual shop, but he is planning to reopen his store virtually, so we can all buy his products. So without delay, I'll bring on my guest. Ladies and gentlemen, It's my honor to welcome a very, very fascinating young teacher, an English teacher in Lima, Peru. His name is Franco the Tutor. So let's give a round of applause for Franco the Tutor, and I'll scare him.
Oh my goodness, this is so scary, Paul. Where is Paul, guys? Can you hear me? Guys, please help me out. Where is Paul? Because I can see a horrible thing there in front. Hey, Paul!
Hi, Franco. How are you?
I'm doing fine. What about you, Paul? Thanks for having me. That was a
Great.
very nice
You
costume,
were
honestly.
you were scared, weren't you? You were
I
really scared.
was
I know it.
scared, yes. I was very
Right?
scared,
So
yes.
you didn't think I was just spooky or creepy. You thought I was scary, right? You were terrified.
Yes, I was terrified, honestly, but to be honest, I can tell you that your costume is really good. So charming and spooky is a very nice combination. Yes,
Yeah.
those
So
words really describe your costume.
spooky is intended to be a little more childish, right? A little more playful.
Yes,
Like
yes.
this is supposed to be a spider web. Clearly it's
Yep.
not. So we can
No.
say it's spooky, but if someone's afraid of that, maybe they've got problems that English school won't help.
Yes, I know.
Scary is we should use the word scary for things that are really
Scary.
scary.
Exactly. You're right.
How are you,
And
Franco?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me one more time. And hello everyone. I am very excited to have this chat with you. And well, I'm looking forward to having a great time together. I like the decoration that you have behind you. So I think that you and decided to have some webs, and that's great. Yeah.
Yeah,
Spider
I've got
webs.
this little friendly ghost here. We'll get up here.
Yes, I heard that you pressed a button and it like sang a song. If I'm not wrong, I think there was a music that came
Let's have a
out.
look.
Wow. Wow, and it can even move its hands, so it can easily scare a person, eh?
Yeah. Now, are you afraid of that?
Yes. If I were,
Oh,
for
you are? Okay.
example, yes, honestly, not now, obviously, but the thing is that if I were in a dark room, I would probably be scared if I saw that, yes, coming out of the dark.
Yeah, in the dark, you don't know what it is if you're not expecting it. Maybe it's
Hmm.
actually scary. But now that we have the light on, it's just
Yeah.
kind of spooky, right? It's related to
Yes.
ghosts.
Exactly. You're right. How are you doing, Paul? How is
Well, I'm
everything?
much better now that you're with us. So I really appreciate you joining the show today. I'm eager to introduce you to my regular viewers who haven't met you, and to, share with them what you do with your language education. So let's go back a little bit and
Sure.
let's talk about you growing up and learning English, and then tell me about how you became a teacher.
Great. Well, I want to say hello to all the viewers. Probably some students are watching the live stream, and thank you so much, guys, for being here, and thanks, Paul, for the invitation. I know that this is going to be a great conversation, and as Paul said, I worked as an English teacher for about wow 8 years, and I grew up in Peru, and I began in studying English when I was 7 years old. The thing is that this journey is very long because I remember listening to music. That was my first, let's say, approach to English. My father is a person who likes listening to music from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and I learned listening to music. Yes, I learned English thanks to it. And later on, I decided to study English in a language school, and then I became an English teacher. But I've always been very passionate about learning languages, and English, Italian, and Portuguese are like the languages that I really like. So that is the reason why I became an English teacher, because I wanted to perfect a bit more my skills and help other people, because I know that out there are many students and different, let's say, people that would like to learn this language, because this is so important that can open doors for you in the future. And
Yeah.
that is a bit more about in my story. I began studying English as a regular student, and then I like your gloves. And then I became a teacher. I studied to be a teacher at International House London, and I graduated from the CELTA course. And when I obtained my certification, I decided to and become, let's say, a TikToker and YouTuber, and that is what I'm doing right now, helping others like you, what you are doing.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your story, Franco. Now, I know you gave me a clip from your TikTok videos, but when I tried to upload it to my streaming software, it stretched your face out way too far, so I decided not to use it.
Don't
But
worry.
if people want to find you on TikTok, what should they look
Sure.
for?
They can find me on TikTok as Franco the Tutor. Okay, Franco that Tutor, and it is the same name that I have for all my social networks. So you can find me on Facebook as Franco the Tutor, TikTok, YouTube. Yeah, that's gonna be very easy for them to find my profile there.
Franco the Tutor, right
Franco the
there, right?
Tutor. Yes. Franco the
Great.
Tutor.
So tell me a little bit about English education in your country, in Peru. Is it common for students to learn English? Do they learn it in school? Do they have to learn it in a private setting? Do they have to learn it from you, or can they learn it from elsewhere?
Well, let me tell you that here in Peru, the process of learning a language is a little bit difficult because students have to go to a private setting to learn a language. So if you want to learn English or Portuguese, French, or any other language that you like, you must go to a private school. And you can learn that at school. So if you're studying in a public or in a private school, you can learn just basics and just that. And if you want to be proficient in the language, then you should go to a private school or a language school. There are many here in Peru that are very well reputed. And then you just sign up for the course or you register, and then you begin this journey, right? You begin the journey, and I can tell you a bit more about the experience as a teacher and working with different students. So I also worked at a public school and in a private school, and I can tell you that working as a teacher in a school is totally different to working in in a language school. First, because when you are working with kids or with teenagers, you need to create different lessons, you need to have a different approach, a different type of methodology. And then when you are working with adults, then you need to apply other techniques and tactics in order to teach them the language. Now, if a person wants to learn a language here in Peru, let's say English, then that person has to pay for a private tutor or go to a private school. Now, in Peru, it is very common to, well, I think that that is very common in different parts of the world. And there is like a division. You have a basic, intermediate, and advanced. And you start with the first level, which is basic. Then when you start with the basic level, then you move on and then you continue in basic 2, basic 3, basic 4. And in every level, students are going to learn the simple past, the present perfect, the past continuous, etc., until the level gets a bit more difficult. And then when a student gets an intermediate level of the language, then this student can opt for different options. They can go to a conversation club. There are different institutions that offer conversation clubs in order to expand a bit more the vocabulary and perfect their skills, or they can continue and going to the language school and finish until they get or reach the advanced level. If a student gets the advanced level, then there are other options. You can study business English or methodology to become a tutor or a teacher or an instructor. So let's say that the process or the path is very long because students, they literally spend 3 or 4 years learning English. Yeah, some of them can do it in less time. Some students can do it in 2 or in 1 year and a half, depending on and the amount of hours of exposure that they are going to have. If students only have, let's say, 2 hours of exposure daily, it means that they have the opportunity to expand a bit more in their skills and put everything into practice. But if you're only going to study for an hour, 3 times a week, then I can tell you that this can be a little bit more like expanded, or this is
Yeah.
going to take more time for the student. But this is
Yeah.
basically the process here in Peru.
That's wonderful.
Hmm.
Before we move on, I just want to say hello to some people joining us now. We
Sure.
have we have Luis with us. We have John Hurt. I saw Yoshishige. If you're joining us just now, guys, welcome to the show. Please say hello in the comment box and tell us what country you're watching from. We have lots of different countries. We have Johan with
Yes.
us,
I want to say hello
and
to all the viewers right now. Luis, John Hart, and we have Johan. Yes, Johan is my student.
oh, great. We also have Shaheen Reza. Shaheen's been with us before, I think, from Pakistan. We have Chieko from Japan. We have Liping, who's in Mexico. We have Hassel. What country are you from, Hassel? We have Jean Plata from Colombia. I remember John. And John Hurt is from Peru. Wonderful. So,
Wonderful.
Franco,
Tell me.
I mentioned when I was introducing you that you opened your own store after
Yes.
designing your own teaching materials. Tell us a little bit about the story of the store. Very,
Oh,
very
that is
exciting.
I would love to tell you a bit more about it because it is a very long story. And every time that I talk about this, it's like talking about something that I created, something that I really love. Number one, when I created this the store, I never imagined that I would be the creator of a big store, and I never thought that this would be that great. So let me tell you a bit more about how this began. And after working with so many students at different levels, I decided to gather everything that I created for them. When I began working as a teacher, I think that that is something that I told you before, but maybe the viewers don't know about this. You know that when you are working with a book, you have different bookish terms, and sometimes students think that this is a little bit unnatural or this is not the way people speak in in Canada or in America or
Yeah.
in any other English speaking country. So the thing is that I decided to create different materials in order to give my students extra practice or real English practice
Yeah.
because most of them didn't and have the opportunity to get a book or couldn't afford to buy a book. So I just decided to create all these materials in order to make the class a bit more dynamic, interactive, and interesting. Because when a teacher is teaching from the book, sometimes the students get a bit bored because they
Yeah.
are like, oh, but the teacher is just following the book. But what if the teacher created more things in order to make this, like, let's say, more
Yeah.
memorable? So that is why I created different materials. So along the way, I gathered, let's say, over 500 different materials in such as flashcards, cards, and roulettes, speaking cards, and so many other things that were very interesting for my students. And then when I quit, because I stopped working as a teacher for a year, I thought, what can I do with everything that I created? And then I decided to open a store. First, it was just a virtual store. I created a catalog and I sent this catalog to different colleagues. And all of them said, ooh, this is so cool. Do you have more materials? Because all of the materials that I had, the teaching materials, were created for beginners. But then some of them said, Franco, why don't you create something for intermediate students or advanced students? So I decided to learn a bit more about the way adults learn, because all of the materials that I created were oriented to adult education. So it was like, okay, now I need to study a bit more about the way adults learn so that I can create better materials, teaching materials. And that is the reason why I decided to finally open a store, because many teachers called me and they said, Franco, and I think that you are the creator of these wonderful materials. Do you think
Oh,
out
Franco, you're.
books? Yep. And that was great. I finally decided to open a store, and I still remember setting everything up for the opening day. And it was fantastic because many teachers came in, they loved the materials, and I was proud of what I did. But I can say that everything that I created was done for my students. So thanks to them, I had that store. And all the materials that I created were for beginners, elementary, intermediate, and advanced students. And now, for example, as you said before, I don't have the physical store anymore because I had to shut it down due to the pandemic. Because when the pandemic hit us, I had to put everything back to the boxes. But now I'm considering opening the store once again. Yep, and I know that that is something that I'm going to announce in your channel soon.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. You know, here in my city, there is no store for teacher supplies. There's an office supply where I can buy pens and markers, but the games and activities and learning tools that you have, I've seen nothing like that in Canada or the US. So, you know, I'm really impressed with that, Franco. That's a wonderful contribution to education. And I think if you were to make that available virtually online, you know that you can make a lot of money with that, because there's a lot of teachers, there are a lot of teachers in the world who want those supplies, because as you said, a textbook is fine if its information is helpful, but it's not personally connected to a student. Even in Canada, we get textbooks that are published in the US, and all the examples or the little stories or little pictures are about life in the US. Well, life in Canada is somewhat different.
Right.
So even as a Canadian, we don't relate to the content, never mind a student. So I did a similar thing with a lot of my materials, is connected to my students. I would even rewrite every quiz and put examples in the quiz with all of my students' names in it, so that they would, you know, get a little laugh while they're stressed out writing a quiz. Now, appreciate the information you've given us, but our time is ticking, Franco. So I want to move to our top 5 that we talked about.
Sure.
And someone, my friend Roni, by the way, we do have some teachers here. Like I said, so when you open the store virtually, you're going to have some customers. I know my friend Wilson is a teacher, an English teacher in Ecuador.
Wow.
So he's your
Hello,
he's your
Wilson.
neighbor.
Yes.
I want to say hello to Eric. Eric is here from, I think he may be one of your friends. We have Fatima with us. We have Juliana with us from Peru. We have Roni. Okay, Roni's got a question for you. Franco,
Sure.
do you have Facebook and YouTube channel? Everything is Franco the Tutor, Roni.
Yes.
So if you search Franco the Tutor, can we see your name? Where is that? Franco, can you put a link in the chat
Sure.
box?
Okay, I will try to do so. Just give me a second.
Sure.
Guys, so if you want to find me on Facebook, then just give me a second, because I will go to the live video on YouTube and I will drop the link there. So just give me 1 minute. Yes, I'm here.
And of course, they can find you
Yeah.
on TikTok
Sure.
at Franco the Tutor.
Franco the Tutor. So I just dropped the link. So if you click on it, you will
Okay.
automatically go to my Facebook. Well, it is the same, Franco the Tutor.
Franco the Tutor.
All
Search for
social
Franco the
networks.
Tutor.
Mhm.
Okay. Let's clear that graphic and let's go to our captions. We have 5 things prepared. We're going to go down in order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, Franco, these are 5 common problems that you've seen with your Spanish-speaking students learning English. These are the most common interference problems they have. So
Yep.
introduce the first one for us.
Well, the first one that we have is you have the reason. I don't know if that's.
I have the reason?
Guys. You have the reason. So we are going to have fun with them. So you have the reason is one of the common problems that I've seen in many students. And instead of saying, for example, you are right, they say you have the reason. I think that is the English monster, and the English monster is going to devour everyone who makes mistakes.
Mistakes. No mistakes allowed.
No mistakes allowed here in this class. So you have the reason is one of the problems that Spanish speakers can deal with, because they always say you have the reason instead of you are right. For us,
You
for
are right.
example, because when you are translating from English into Spanish, then it's like, okay, so that must be the right answer. and it is not like that, you see? So the thing is
Right.
that have is a verb that everyone uses. I think it is like the multifaceted or the the verb that everyone wants to use, have, and that is why they think that
Have.
have should go in all the sentences. It's similar to the word get, for example.
Right. And in
So
English, the word have expresses possession. Like, I have this glove. I have a mask. It's not a be verb. It doesn't connect adjectives and it doesn't connect,
right,
right? It's possession. I have
exactly.
a show. I have a guest.
Yes, I have. So, for example, when we are thinking in Spanish and then we say you have the reason, that's why we think that that is a right sentence when it should be
Right.
you are right. Mhm.
You are right. Okay, let's go to number two.
Number two.
Number two.
So the second sentence is I have 40 years. Okay, that is totally wrong, right? I mean,
Yeah.
beginners usually make those mistakes because they are once again literally translating from Spanish to English. And that is why they use have once again to say that they have the years, which is weird because it doesn't make sense. You don't have the years, right? So
Yeah.
basically, you are 40 years old, and they even forget the word old at the end of the sentence. But
Right.
I always tell them every time that you are going to say how old you are, you should say, I am 40 years old, or I am 40, or simply 40. But if you're saying I
Yeah.
have 40,
And the structure we have
understandable.
here
Yeah.
is when we combine all these words together, what we end up with is an adjective. This
That's
is an
right.
adjective structure, and across the be verb, it's describing the person. So there's no possession here. This is a case where the person is being described. It's like saying, you are happy, you are spooky. This whole thing is an adjective meaning. 40 years old. That's an adjectival meaning directed at the subject. So it's not possession,
No. Yep. You're
it's
right.
describing you. Okay,
Yes.
let's go to number three.
Number three.
Very common error. I've even heard this here. Let's hear number three.
Oh, I enjoy listening music. Okay. I don't know if the viewers can spot the mistake. So the first one that spots a mistake will get a prize. I enjoy listening music. There is something missing here.
If you can see what it is, guys, put it in the comment box. Tell us
Yes.
what's missing. Something's missing here. What
Yep.
is it?
What is missing here, guys? I'm listening.
Franco, I enjoy listening music. What's wrong?
I enjoy listening music too. No, but that is wrong.
It's wrong.
Because every time that we have the verb listen, it should be joined by to. So we should say, I enjoy listening to music. And that is something that I always play with because when I am teaching the verb or the use of the verb to listen, I always tell them, okay, you should say to listen to something, to listen to the teacher,
Yeah.
listen to podcasts, listen to the radio, for example, because it is common for Spanish speakers to eliminate the letter to and
Yeah.
they automatically mention the next word. Yep,
Yeah.
it happens.
Another way to understand this is when this is in verb form, listen, it's a verb of movement. And all verbs of movement connect two nouns. They connect the place of origin to the place of destination. So if you say, I walked to the store, walk is a movement verb, and you moved from home to the store. So there's always a combination of meaning between from and to with a movement verb. And it's not easy to see, but listen is a movement verb. Why? Because if I'm listening to music, the music is actually moving from my stereo to my ears, right? It's a verb of movement. Listen, right? The sound is moving from a place of origin, a stereo or a phone or a TV, to your ears.
Right.
So that's why this has to work. And in fact, Franco, they are always together. This is 100% partnership. We always listen to something. Listen to your mother. Listen to your teacher. Listen to music. because sound is moving from someone to someone else. Let's go to number
That's right.
4. Number 4.
I think that everyone is learning so many things today. I prefer pizza than. Okay, number 4. I prefer pizza than. For example, every time that I ask my students, "Hey guys, so tell me a bit more about your favorite food." Okay, they say, "I prefer pizza than ice cream." And it's like, ooh, there
Not
is a
quite right.
problem here. Yes. So I prefer pizza to ice cream.
Yeah. Preference is also a kind of movement because you're making an expression that you prefer this
Exactly.
over this. So
Yes.
your preference is moving. I don't prefer this, I prefer this. So my preference is kind of moving. I prefer pizza to hamburgers. I prefer pizza to rice. Whatever the contrast is. So
Exactly. And the
these,
same, and that rule is follow to all cases because basically students, when they are using the gerunds, for example, I prefer watching series, and they say "than" instead of "to," for example, because that is very hard
yeah.
sometimes for us to use the word "to," especially to the ones who are Spanish speakers, right? But yes, every time that we
And
are
by the
using
way,
prefer, we use "to."
that's right. If you have another choice over here, I prefer pizza to hamburgers. But if the other person already knows the other choice, like if you and I were talking about hamburgers, and we're talking about hamburgers, and you told me how much you love hamburgers, and you said, "Paul, what about you? Do you love hamburgers?" I could say, "Well, I prefer pizza to
Right.
hamburgers,"
Yeah.
because you already know that we're talking about hamburgers. You
Yep.
already know the second option. So sometimes people just say, "I prefer blank," with nothing else happening in the sentence, if it's already known in the context. But if you're comparing this to something else, it's got to be two. Okay,
Right.
let's go to number 5, Franco.
Number 5. So number 5 is seeing that ghost was terrific. And yes, it really was very terrific.
Okay.
And the word terrific here and shares, let's say, the same root with the word terrifying. You see, so the thing here is for Spanish speakers, terrifying and terrific somehow sound similar. And that is why
Yeah.
we confuse every time that we see these two words like terrific, terrifying. What is the right one? Which is the one
Yeah.
that I should use if I want to say that that is very scary? So that I tell them, if you see that something is scary, then you should use terrifying. But terrific is something thrilling, right?
Yeah. So this has a positive meaning like, wow, that was terrific. That was super
Yep.
awesome. Terrifying is describing the thing that made you afraid.
Right.
And if you want to describe your feeling, you would say, I am terrified. But
Exactly.
you mentioned that terrific is a common error for Spanish speakers because of the Spanish adjective
Yes,
terrifico.
because there is exactly perfect, good pronunciation, Paul. The thing is that terrifico is a word that we have here in Spanish, and that means terrifying. And that's why students say, oh, okay, so that is a word that I should use here. And there is a language interference, like a language issue there when we are trying to create a sentence. But at the end, students with constant practice, they can get it.
Yeah. Okay, that's Franco's top 5 common errors for Spanish English learners. Thank you for sharing that, Franco.
No, don't worry. Thanks to you.
We are running out of time, so I want to just say hello to everyone who I've missed. I think I missed Mohammed. Mohammed, welcome to the show. A little bit late, but better late than never, especially where you're concerned. Hope you're well. Are you riding horses lately, or are you still in Canada where there are no horses? Or do you have horses in Canada? I don't know. Mohammed loves horses.
Oh, I
We,
love them
we
too.
also we have Driada with us.
Driada is also here. Hello,
Driada?
Driada. Driada was one of my students almost 1 year ago, if I'm not wrong. Yes. Hi, Driada. It's good to see you here. Oh, there are many students that they are just joining the class,
Yeah.
but some of
It's
them are
always
latecomers. Yeah, but probably they're going to see the recording.
Yeah, this recording will be on the YouTube channel, Hardboiled English. I'll make sure you get the link, Franco, so you can share it with your friends.
Great then.
Oh, I see Zine Ro, Special Sonder with us. We've got
Oh,
lots of folks with us.
oh yes. Wilson is also here on YouTube.
Yeah.
Hazel.
Patricia
Patricia.
Domingue.
Oh, Patricia. Yes, a friend of mine, Patricia. Patricia Dominguez. Yes, she
Fabulous.
is a friend of mine. Hey, hello, Patricia. Thanks for joining the show. Yes, the thing is that I invited all my students, and I'm so happy that they are actually watching the live stream, and it is great that they are learning something, and probably some of them are now, let's say, learning a bit more about the differences between all the words that we just talked about.
Yeah.
Yep,
I saw earlier Wilson had a question for you, Franco.
sure. Mm-hmm.
Wilson is my friend, a fellow
Oh,
English teacher in Ecuador. There we go.
oh, great name.
Have you studied that one? Yeah. Wilson is asking, have you studied English abroad, Franco?
Wow, that is a very interesting question. Well, son, I didn't study English abroad. I studied English here in Peru. And I can say that the level of advanced that I reached was thanks to the opportunity that I had to work with and students that came from the United States. I worked in a student exchange office here in Lima, and all of them were from the United States. So that when I became friends with these guys, I learned a bit more about the culture, expressions, slangs, etc. So later, I mean, 5 years later, I had the chance to go to Canada and interact with real native speakers. And for me, that was an incredible experience. But I want to say that, or I want to point out that I never studied English abroad. I wish I had that privilege, but I didn't have it. But yeah, who knows? Maybe one day I will be able to go and study probably at college or at university. The thing is that studying abroad can help you tremendously, a lot, because you are immersed in the language. You can interact with real native speakers and you learn a bit more about the culture, traditions, etc. But in my case, I can tell you that the level that I have now was something that I got thanks to the job that I had and because I was a very dedicated student. Yeah.
Great. Well, Franco, at this point,
Oh,
we're going to start wrapping up. So,
sure.
what I'd like to do is just go down the list of our viewers and thank them.
Sure. Of
And
course.
to do that, I'm going to get into character a little bit. So,
Don't worry. That's
forgive me
okay.
if I am terrifying you. I know
No,
this is
don't
really
worry. That's
terrifying.
okay. That is so terrifying. So probably that is going to scare some of our students.
That is my dream. Okay, Franco, here's who. Let's say thank you to Chris from Belgium, Wako from Japan, Carmen from Peru, Parveen from Australia, Sandra and Luza from Colombia, Juan from Peru. We had Stacy from Jamaica, Hector from Peru, Chris from Brazil, Angela from Peru, Rakib from Bangladesh, Liping from Mexico, Wilson from Ecuador, Roni from Bangladesh, Joseph, I'm not sure where Joseph is from. I have a feeling he's from somewhere in Africa. We have Jonathan, Chieko from Japan, Shaheen from Pakistan, I believe, John and Johan from Peru, Yoshishige from Japan. We had Luis from Peru. We have Hassel from Mexico, Jean Plata from Colombia. We had Eric with us. We had Fatima from Pakistan, Juliana, Zin, Special Sonder, Patricia from Peru, Driada, my friend Mohammed, who's originally from Saudi Arabia but lives in Vancouver. And we had Mario joining us. So thank you
Wow.
all for joining the show tonight. Thank you to my special guest, Franco Alarcon from Peru. I can barely see, Franco, forgive me.
Don't worry, that's okay. I
We have
understand.
Willan from Brazil, Sandra
Yeah.
also. Thank you everyone for joining the show. Franco, do you have anything, last things to say?
Well, I just want to say thanks to my wonderful co-host and great teacher Paul. It was fantastic to have this class and conversation with you all guys. And thanks for the invitation. I'm looking forward to being part of any of your live classes soon. Yes, I want to say hello to that toy that you have next to you as well. And this is not going to be
Super.
the last time. I know that you're going to invite me next time to have another conversation because there are so
Let's
many
do
things
that.
that maybe we can talk about teaching, about learning languages, tips. So there are so many things. The topics are endless. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Franco, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you to all the viewers out
Thanks to
there.
you guys.
Thank you to our ghost.
That is so scary, eh? And spooky. Well, that is the word of today.
Very spooky. Okay, Franco, I'm going to take you off the screen. Thank you very much. I'll catch up with you a little later on.
Bye bye.
Happy Halloween, everyone. Thank you for watching the show tonight. Thank you to my special guest, Franco the Tutor. Find him on YouTube. Find him on Facebook. Find him on TikTok. Franco the Tutor. That's all you have to search for. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. Enjoy Halloween in some way. Watch a scary movie. Wear a costume. Have some fun. Face your fears. Learning English is not that scary. If you're afraid of grammar, face it. Study it. Ask questions. If you're afraid of speaking, face it. Face your fears, everyone. Look at your fears. That's what Halloween's all about. It's about facing the fears we have. And to learn in English, to learn any language, you need to face your fears of it. And you need to just use it. Okay? So keep learning English. I'll see you next Friday night. And until I see you again, thank you very much for joining Hardboiled English Live with Teacher Paul. And until I see you next time, stay cool.